Welcome to my next video. I want to introduce you to the project I'm making in this video. This is a potpourri box. It's 3 main parts and got a foot on it. So you actually got about 5 parts, 7 counting the 2 little pieces for the handle. And the original pattern called for this to be closed with contrasting woods between it and the bottom. But being a potpourri box, I thought I would try opening it all up and see if you can get a little more aroma out of it. So anyway, you want to see how I made this, you want to see how it's done, well, stay with me, and here in a minute I'll show you the materials and the pattern and my game plan in making this, and then we'll walk through it. So stay tuned, and I hope you enjoy it. I want to cover the pattern, the materials, and the plan of action for this potpourri box project. Body's supposed to be 1 inch thick. I got this piece of scrap that was a little corner shelf in this house when we moved into it. It's glued together section of pine, and it's been planed down to 1 inch thick. So I'm going to repurpose that. Then I've got 2 sheets of 1/4 inch poplar, and that I'm going to use for the other pieces. Everything else is 1/4 inch, and so you got 3 pieces here. You got the body, you got the upper ring, and you got the bottom that are all the same size. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut this down, this piece, I'm going to cut it down, and I'm going to cut down 2 pieces for the top decorative ring and the bottom, and I'm going to stack those and cut them all together. And then that basically will be finished. That one will be done. Then I'll have to take this one and drill and cut the internal parts. Then for this is the lid, and then you have a little foot under it, which just be cut out separately. It's a little bit smaller, so you have a little raised section, a little decorative item for that. But this lid's supposed to be, in the way Steve Good did it, is he used a darker wood than this, and he cut this out and mounted it below it. I think I'm going to make this fit the ring properly first. Then I'm going to center it on this on the back, glue it on, then I'm going to cut this out through the whole thing. That's my idea right now. And you got this little piece, which is a handle to pick the lid up and down with. But that's my plan right now. I'm going to glue this. I'm not going to make it a different color from this lid, and we'll have these leaf cutouts open all the way down, so you have more area for the potpourri in order to come out. So that's my plan right now. I'm going to stain this a little darker once I get it together. These I'm going to start out leaving them natural until I get there and see what they look like. I can put that Danish oil or something on it and kind of darken it a little bit if I want to. But that's the plan right now. So what I got to do next is cut these boards down for these patterns, and so that I can stack these 3 and make them pretty much the same size, and then I can cut them all at once. So that's the plan right now, and we're going to move forward with that. So anyway, there's my plan. I'm just going to make this the same width as that, so it's easier to cut them to size. They don't have to be exact. I'm not being real critical with these measurements, but I just want 3 pieces of the general same size to stack. I'm going to put this one pattern on top of it, and I'm going to cut the outer ring with that. So I got those 3 blanks cut. They're all more or less the same size. Now I'm going to stack them. I'm going to tape them together in a stack like that. And then I'm going to place that on top of it. And I'm going to use that as a pattern to cut all 3 of them. The idea is to get everything identical. I have a video about stack cutting. If you want to go look at that, I'll put a link to it either here or in the description. But that's what this is going to be about. It's going to be stack cutting. Hopefully this material will all work out, and I'll have to get this together and then we'll go cut it. So I got that stacked. What I did is I ran tape all the way around the outer edge, 2 layers, and then I went completely around this way with that blue tape, and then put the pattern on with some stick glue, and then went over it with this clear tape. So it's ready to cut. I think I'm going to, since this is about 1.5 inches thick, but none of it's real hard wood, I think I'm going to go with like a number 7 or a number 9 non-reverse tooth blade, and I'm going to cut that slowly. It's not going to be a fairly easy turn to make, and it's the same all around, so it's not going to be a hard cut, but I'm going to take my time with it because I want to make sure that it cuts parallel top to bottom. So anyway, that's the next step. Now I'll get over to the saw. So here at the saw, I've replaced the blade. That's a number 9 XL non-reverse tooth skip tooth blade. I'm cutting a pretty thick piece here. I want it to make sure it stays parallel top to bottom. I'm going to cut this slowly and double check it, make sure it was straight. I do that every time because this table tends to sometimes move on me. Anyway, get all this adjusted, and we'll try to cut this. Alright, so no surprises there. That cut just about as well as I thought it would. There'll still be some sanding that need to be done and some matchups to be done when you glue it together. But I got 3 pieces cut at once, and one of those is practically done. I'll have to cut the interior on this one and an interior on this one, but I'm going to cut another piece to glue to this one before I put the pattern on and cut it. This one I just got a drill and cut, and I'll probably do that next. So I put a hole in that. I'm going to drill the internal piece. This should be a little easier than the cut I just made, but I'm pleased with the cut. It's nice and smooth, and I think it's going to look good when I put a stain on it. It's just some pine of some kind there, looks like. So anyway, here we go. I'm going to cut the internal. Yeah, again, no surprises. Cut very well. There will always be some sanding to do to finish things up nicely, but there's going to be minimal sanding on this. A little bit of an edge right there, but that's going to sand out nice. I think it's going to look good when it's stained and finished. So let me go look at what else we've got to cut out and get the patterns ready. So now I've got all the remaining patterns mounted. This is one of the blanks I cut out with these 2 pieces. That's going to be the bottom, and that's going to be the body. Those are finished other than some sanding and gluing. On this one, I'm going to, of course, do these internal cuts, drill all the holes, do the internal cuts. I'm going to drill a hole in that one. This one I'm going to wait to drill the holes. I'm going to cut these 3 out. I'm going to make sure this one, I'll cut this one out, and make sure this one fits properly inside the center ring. Then I will glue it to the back of that one and drill the holes and cut those out. And that's basically the procedure I'm going to take. But the next thing is I got to drill the entry holes in these 2 pieces to start with. And then I'll cut everything out. I'll probably cut these external pieces out first and then cut this one. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. Now I'm going to go drill some holes, some entry holes for all these 2 pieces. Oh, there are the holes. I used an 1/8 inch bit on this one. Those are large areas to cut out. On this one, I used my little scroller drill because I didn't want to raise the area around the pattern too much, and see how it raises, makes a little damaged area there. This makes less damage. I'm going to use it on these 2 when it comes time. But for now, I'm going to move this to the scroll saw. I'm probably going to switch over to a number 5 reverse tooth blade, and then we'll cut these out. So now we're back at the saw. I've checked the blade for straightness before I would go through that. I've changed to a number 5. That's a scroll reverse, whereas every 3rd tooth is a reverse tooth. It's not a true reverse tooth blade where the bottom 1/3 or so is reversed. But this is what they call, what Flying Dutchman calls a scroll reverse. And so with the normal procedure, I always start on the internal and work my way out. And even normally, if I was going to cut this whole piece, I wouldn't cut the outside till I got the inside cuts done. But that's just what I've always done, it's what I was taught to do. I always start internally and come out. And so that's what we're going to do here. May not film this whole thing, but I'll do a little bit of it, because that's a lot of cutting there. I don't want a 2-hour video just for this one piece. So anyway, here we go. I'm going to start on this. So when I'm trying to cut a circle like that, and especially internal, I try to find that pivot point with my finger and get it started, and then I just keep my finger on that pivot point and try to spin it on that. And sometimes you may have to slide that pivot point a little bit to make it a way around your circle. But you can cut a pretty good circle there if you ever get that pivot point pegged down with your finger and swivel on that. So now let's move over to one of these other sections and cut it out. Okay, 11 more of those and I'll have this piece finished. This stuff cuts real easy. You have to be careful. This poplar cuts real quickly on this saw. It's a nice new blade. And you have to be careful not to overrun your line. Anyway, I'll be back when I'm just getting this finished up. So there we have it. Except for cleanup and sanding and fitting, that piece is finished. So I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to make one internal cut on the small piece that goes on the lid, and then I'll cut out the other round objects. Now this piece is going to be a hole along with this one that this other little piece right here is going to fit in. So I'm going to leave a little bit on the inside of the line, and I always file that down if I need to, and adjust that piece sticking in, whatever. I don't like to take off too much to start with, so I'm going to go light on that line. Now, so I cut that little out, but I want to make sure the corners were cleaned out. I went back and cleaned those out when I got finished. Now I'm going to cut these two small pieces out, and then I'll start working on these and work my way up. So you can see the issues I had with that. Occasionally the pattern will not stick properly. I didn't glue that very well. And normally holding it down with my finger like that will get you through. But then the whole pattern flipped off. But I have tested that against this hole. It's a little big, which is what I wanted. And then I didn't anticipate it falling in my hole here. And I had to pull the side panel off to get it out. Should have been thinking ahead on that one and put my zero tolerance board on here, but anyway, I made it out. None of these others should fall through. I'm going to go ahead and cut this other small one out, and then I'll come back and cut these large ones. So I got all the scroll saw cutting done except for this pattern right here. I'm not going to drill that until I'm going to take this next step. This is supposed to be the part that fits down inside that ring, which is glued to the bottom of that. Now that makes the lid. So what I'm going to do, that's a little tight, and that's kind of the way I wanted it. I'll work my way down to it. I'm going to take that over to the disc sander, and I will gently sand that down until it's just a real good fit right there. And then I will center it on the back of this. Of course, I'll take that tape off. Center it on the back of that and glue it. And then I will drill those holes and cut it. Now that's my plan right now. And in the meantime, I'm going to stain this while that glue is, once I get this glue set in here, I'm going to stain this. And I'm going to center this, that's the foot, that's going to be on the bottom, which kind of holds it up, gives you a little clearance from the table or wherever you sit it. But I'm going to center that and glue it also. That's ready to be done. A little light sanding and cleaning up before I do, but that can be done. And then when I get this cut, I can glue those together. And then I glue that on, and we'll be just about done there. But right now I'm going to work this into here and put some stain on that. I'm going to darken it up. And right now that's my next steps. And once I get this, I'll glue that on there, and I'll have to wait a little while that glue's setting before I drill and cut. So I've taken this piece to the sander. Got it where it fits in there nicely. That will swivel around it with no problem. And it's a snug fit, but it's loose enough that you can put the lid on in any orientation and it'll fit down in there. And that's what I wanted. I didn't want a lot of looseness there, but I wanted it to fit where you could spin it. So we got that. Now I'm going to take this and glue it to the back of that, centered. And then I'm going to stain the body. I'll have all that going. It'll take a little while for that to set. I'll also glue that on and let all that staining and glue sit up at the same time. So I took the bottom of the lid and I put it in the ring that it fits in, put some glue on it, and I'm using this to line it up so it'll be properly aligned. There's glue between those two pieces, but there's not enough to come out to the edge to glue it to this. So I'm using that to line it up where I want it, and it's looking pretty good. And I'll let it sit a few minutes to get tacky, and I'll put some weight on it. In the meantime, I'll try to glue this other piece and also stain the body. So I've got this lid glued together. I've drilled the holes through all of it. I'm not going to need to drill that because the piece that I've got is going to sit level on there and be glued on there. So, but I got to cut these 5 leaves out, and I've got the bottom gluing to the body, and I've got the piece this sits down in ready to go. I'll glue it on over there next, but the glue is sitting up on that and the body is stained. And we'll look at that when I get through here and see what the next step is then. But right now I'm going to cut this. So I've got everything glued together, pretty well sanded. I've put some finish on it. I've got another coat to put on it, but it's pretty well done. We're almost back to where we started in the introduction of this video. So I'm going to call this good for now. I really like the way it turned out. Could have been better, but I always think it could be better. If you like that, please hit the like button, and if you'd like to see this kind of work, subscribe, and I'm going to keep doing different kinds of boxes, different kind of projects like this. This is mainly kind of partially scrap wood, most of it. But anyway, I hope you like it, and stay tuned, and I'll try to do some more like this.